Hi, I'm John and welcome to my YouTube channel. So I first want to thank you all for the past few days, all of you who have subscribed and watched, and the support from Instagram as well. It has been overwhelming. The sharing, I am extremely grateful. So I apologize in advance once again for any noise because I live in quite a busy area. So today we'll be doing the Booktube Newbie Tag. I was going to do this tag alongside the Get to Know the Booktuber tag, but I saw that the questions for this were quite long, so I will be doing just this one today, and eventually I'll do the other one. So sit tight, get cozy, and I hope you enjoy this video. The first question is, why did you want to start this channel? So I have, like I said in the last video, I've been watching Booktube for over 3 years now, and ever since discovering Booktube 3 years ago, I had always wanted to get in this space because it's like my favorite thing to discuss books with people, especially when it's like a book I really liked. I always sought out spaces to talk about it with people or engage in conversations with people, because I do not know a lot of people who read. So yeah, I always wanted to find that space where people discussed books, and when I found Booktube, I always wanted to get on this space, but yeah, I never just tapped in because I was not seeing a lot of Nigerians or Africans really. It's mostly just Americans I see on here, then maybe the British too. So yeah, I've always wanted to start the channel for just the community of people who read, because I know over years people read, but it's not it's not as it is over there. And so yeah, I've always wanted to start it for the community. So the next question is, what are some fun and unique things you can bring to Booktube? I don't personally think there's any fun and unique thing I can bring to this space really, because I'm not should I say, I'm not so content creative. I don't know what fun and unique thing I'll be bringing to Booktube, but I don't know if this counts, but I would say my perspective, being a Nigerian and being from Africa, I would say my perspective, because I read mostly American fiction. So I don't know if that counts, but my perspective, yes, that's my answer. So question 3 is, what are you most excited for about this channel? I would say what I'm most excited for is getting to meet new people on here, to chat books with, getting to discover new friends, make new friendships, surrounded around books. So 4 is quite a question. It's one of those questions where I don't like being asked, because really what's the answer to it? But question 4 is, why do you love reading? So I would say I love it because it's the best hobby in the world. It's my favorite hobby, and I love the fact that books that I just think it baffles me that it's words on paper put in a book that just transcends a person literally to another space, and it's human nature in paper. And so I just think the art form is I think it's miraculous in a sense. I know that sounds strange, but yeah, I just think it's miraculous, the idea that books on paper can depict human life, human way of living. I love reading because I think books are one of the greatest gifts to humankind. Question 5 is, what books got you into reading? So I would say I was never really a reader growing up, except for secondary school assigned reading and stuff, and even then I never read the books so much because I just found it quite taxing. But occasionally there will be one or two that I would read and read over again, because our assigned reading here in primary school, secondary school, they were very small books that you could read maybe 20 times in a day. I'm literally not joking. You read them 20 times in a day because of how big the texts were, and how and they were quite engaging, especially for children. But yeah, I did not get into reading until 2017. I did not properly get into reading until 2017, and the book that got me into reading was, I don't know if you guys know these Harley Quinn romances. I don't have any of them here because I no longer read those kind of books, but it was those small mass market Harley Quinn romances that are always around 200-250 pages, and they are very popularly sold here. So yeah, it was one of those books that got me into reading. I had borrowed it from one of my friends who brought it to school, and I there's a story behind that entire encounter with that book, but it was the book that I read first, and then I think it propelled me to like seeking out more books, because I know immediately after finishing that book because then we borrowed books mostly in that school space, because my parents were not like book readers, or they did not buy books really, and I never really even saw the places where you could get like books I wanted to read. So we mostly borrowed books, and so I know after reading that small Harlequin romance, I enjoyed it back then pretty decently. I really enjoyed it, and I struggled to read it though, but I really enjoyed it. And so after reading that book, I saw a book in a friend's hand, and he did not seem like a reader, and he told me what like his sister's book, and he agreed to borrow me, and I read that book in a few days, and that was the beginning of it. And then I began borrowing, so I borrowed another, borrowed another, and borrowed another. So yeah, I think the Harlequin romance was the definitive book that got me really into reading in 2017. Question 6 is, what questions would you like to ask your favorite booktubers? I think going through the questions for this tag, this was like kind of the hardest one to come up with an answer for, because I have very small selection of booktubers I watch, and since that I think I will have different questions for each and every one of them, because I don't think I'll have the same question for, and still even thinking of it now, like I do not know what I would like to ask any of them. But I think if I were to single out my favorite booktuber, his name on here is like, what page are you on? His name is Alex. I love him so much. Yeah, I don't know, I would just like to ask him like how his mind works when he like reads a book. I would like to know how his mind works when he reads a book, because I'm so fascinated by how he like reviews books and all. But I don't know, I don't know if that counts, but I think it's the only thing that came to mind. But I really would have I would have to think of the questions, but I'm very certain that I will have different questions for each of them. So question 7 is, what challenges of starting a booktube channel do you think will be the hardest to overcome? And I would say, I think initially I would have said, and I'll still say it's like acclimating myself with the fact that like the views and the subscribers might not always come easy. It's not even in the sense of like wanting so many subscribers or so many views, but like people actively watching. I think it's the answer I would still have is that like I know it will be acclimating myself to the fact that this will not always come easy, and that there will be maybe videos where it might not get so seen, and I'll have to it might be a bit sad sometimes for me, and I will have to deal with like pushing myself past like the views and the subscribers to just keep going, because I know it's very possible to grow on here, and like there are nice people I get to meet. But I think that was going to be my initial answer, which I said it still is. But over the past 2 days, like it's not like I've gotten so many views, but I think like it has just been so much to see that like people are actually sharing, and people are actually watching, and people are commenting. It's crazy, people are commenting really nice things. Another one is that I am currently a final year college student, so I know it's not going to be easy putting out videos while working on my project and while like preparing for my exams, because I know it's more taxing in this final year, and I also like have external duties in my life that I have priority. So I know it's not going to be easy balancing all of it, but yeah, I think those are like the 2 challenges that come to mind for now. So question 8 is, when did you start reading? So like I said earlier, I started actually reading in 2017. So I'll just do like a brush up of the story, because I always like telling people this story. It's not like it's funny or anything, but the thing that happened was like, so a friend brought a book, the Harlequin romance, to school, and that friend also, it did not seem so reader-ish. I don't know if that is a word, but it did not seem so reader-ish, and I saw it in his hand. I was like, okay, I would like to read this and let me borrow it. And so he lent it to me, And what happened was that I began reading that book. But when I got to chapter 4, I noticed that I got tired of something. I know the school session was like much and boiling down on me as well, so I know I could not finish it. And then I think he said it was his mom's book, so he asked for it back and I had to give him back, of course. But eventually I begged him again that I needed the book, I needed to read it and finish it this time. And so the thing is with me is that when I am reading a book and I go and maybe I leave it for a long time without reading it, I always start from the beginning again. So I think some months had passed, and when I asked him again, he brought it back to me, and so I started from the beginning and I ended up in chapter 4 again. And then I had to return it back to him and say that I will borrow it eventually. And then I borrowed it again after a month or two, I think. I cannot remember, but I borrowed it again and then I read to chapter 4. But I think that the third time I noticed that I had gotten to chapter 4 like 3 times now. So I just stomached it and decided to like push past through. That's when I finally finished it, and I think that was like the first book to definitively get me into reading. So question 9 is, where do you read? I mostly read in my room, on my bed. Question 10, what kind of books do you like to read? So I would say I read mostly everything that is not fantasy, romance, historical fiction, and YA. Yes, YA. Those are like the 4 genres I do not read, because I think for YA, I think I've just kind of moved past that phase. And fantasy, I've never really gotten into it. Then romance, not for me. Yeah, but I read everything else. But I'll say my primary genre I read is literary fiction. That's like my bread and tea. I know people do not like the term literary fiction, but I adore it. I think it characterizes like the books in that genre so well. And yeah, that's what I read. Anything, Things in the Sphere of Sorrow and Bliss by McMason, by Your Rest and Relaxation. Yeah, those are the things I like. But I also read horror. As you can see behind me, it's like a Stephen King stack. Yes, so I also read horror. Not horror really. I really categorize Stephen King as a genre on his own because he's the author I own the most books of. So I read Stephen King books, and I read crime and mystery. Those are like genres I started with early on, and I still occasionally like dabble into those too. Yeah, and some contemporary fiction, but yeah, those are what I read. I also really like essay collections and memoirs, but I very much, for essay collections, I prefer like personal essays. Yeah, then I like memoirs also. Question 11, the final question is, what does your book collection look like? So I do not have an overly massive collection, but yes, I will insert a clip here of what my book collection looks like. But it's mostly a combination of books I have gotten at my school fair and books sent to me from bookish friends in the UK. Yes, and books bought for me here by friends abroad. So yeah, that's but clip insert here. But yeah, I think we have come to the end of this video. I very much hope you enjoyed it and enjoyed like watching me chat about bookish things. Please like and please subscribe if you like this video, and please help share, as I would really appreciate it. And also, question for the day, I would like to know what author you have most on your shelf. Yeah, I'd like to know what author you have most books of on your shelf. Please leave it in the comments below, and I hope you have a very lovely, blessed week. Bye.